Welcome to another episode with the Black Man's Locker.
Hey,
How you guys doing today?
We are well.
blessed.
Okay, I'm
Humbly.
Terry. We got Norris, we got Marlon, and we got Ty going to join us shortly. He has some business he had to conduct, but we're going to stay on task. We here. Glad to hear you guys are doing great. So our topic today is accountability.
Yes, sir.
Accountability. What do you guys think of when you hear about accountability?
I would say definitely like just the meaning of it, just kind of taking responsibility for your actions, whether past, present, you gotta kind of it's really a narcissistic thing to just kind of think that everybody's against you or everything is somebody else's fault. I mean, you can't sit there and act like nobody wants you or everyone's against you when you're constantly doing things to push people away or get things going. So I mean, there's other things that you can be accountable for, but that's just one of the things that pop in my head. So
Cool. It looked like I disappeared off screen. Can you guys hear me?
We
Can't
can
see
hear
me.
you. I think you're
it's like you're frozen.
frozen,
Uh
if
oh.
anything.
Oh. We
That's
might have
all
to
right. Well,
operate. We're operating in the dark for a little bit, and then you guys get me straight. How about you, Norse? What do you hear about accountability?
actually, I really just echo what Marlon was saying. I mean, just being responsible for your actions, and those actions they can be personal. Those actions can be public. I mean, we there's so many different examples that we can use, especially with things that have happened in the media over the past few years and different things like that, different things that we've seen even on social media. Just being able to say within yourself whether you messed up or it was a situation where you didn't mess up or whatever the case may have been. Being able to say, that this was me, taking responsibility, and if it's something that needs to be changed, making the necessary changes
Okay.
so that you don't run into this type of a situation again. So like I said, I would just kind of echo what Marlon was saying and just put my little sauce on it as well.
Okay.
Right.
Let me give a formal definition of accountability. Just the state or quality of being accountable, the obligations or willingness to accept responsibility to or for one's account for one's actions. That sound about right?
Sound
Sound
about right.
sound good to
For
me.
us as men, I know that's just such a huge thing because what happens is a lot of us get kind of caught up in how we've been dealt with, not just by society, but in our relationships. And so sometimes what we do is we hide behind our sexual orientation, we hide behind our positions, we hide behind our titles instead of actually coming clean. And so sometimes that's hard for us as men because we've been kind of damaged through the experiences that we've kind of had in life. So our accountability is a huge part of who we are as men. And I wanted to definitely throw some topics in there that we had about our conference, which was huge. We had a great turnout. The men seemed to get a lot from their conference. So some of the topics that we had that we're going to touch on during this session is fatherhood. That's a big one. Black fatherhood, health. Our health is a big part of who we are. If we're not healthy, we're not going to stay in any position very long. Community involvement, relationships, our mental health. I'm kind of biased, but that to me, the mental health part of that is the hugest part of that because if you ain't got the means to think sound and make sound judgment, then the other areas of your life are going to falter as well. And then the last one we touched on was finance. So all these are a big part. As individuals, we have to be accountable as men in these positions and in leadership to operate in any of these positions. But I wanted to talk about fatherhood because we're all fathers.
Hmm.
We're all fathers, and we have had fathers that may have been accountable to us or may not have been accountable to us. And in some way, shape, or fashion, that has also impacted each and every one of us. And as we
Mhm.
see in the news and in our communities, fathers not being active or fathers being active in their kids' lives have really impacted our communities in ways, because the kids first, they're going to base their actions and interactions off of how they've been taught. And that usually starts with the men in the home, and in some single parent homes with the mothers. Of course, they're trying to teach these young people the best way that they can, but accountability is a big part of that. So I wanted to touch on about fatherhood, Black fatherhood particularly, because we're all fathers. And I wanted to
Mhm.
just see, what are some things that you guys teach your kids about accountability, and has there been any struggles?
I know with me, one of my sons, he's he's not abusive in any ways, shape, or form. He's just one of those. When it's time to pop off, it's time to pop off. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't think. You know, he doesn't think as far as um it's not that big a deal. So, I mean, he's gotten to several altercations at school this year. And it was at some point where he was actually pulled out of school for a hot second, you know, just so he can kind of get kind of a reset. You know, it wasn't like suspension, but it was more of a, you know, it kind of put him in like a homeschool type thing, you know. And you know, one of the things that I've been working with him on is, you know, aggression, especially towards females. And I try to explain to him that, you know, a lot of times it's, you know, it's mainly because someone likes you. Oh, Terry, you're back moving again. Whatever you did
Yeah.
work, but
Wow.
whatever. Yeah, well, I told him whatever. Basically, you know, like, you know, the girl might like you. You don't understand now because you're in the sixth grade, but as you get older, you're gonna kind of see it. You know, girls are gonna pick at you. They're gonna make fun of you, and you know, with insecurities, like, I don't buy we don't buy our kids Jordans or any expensive clothes like that. Not because we can't afford it, but it's just a situation where I don't think they would appreciate it right now because my kids are still like doing stuff like running and jumping in puddles of water and stuff like that. You know, and I'm not doing that. You know what I'm saying? So, but it's one of those things. It's really hard to kind of sit him down and understand that you know, as far as putting your hands on anybody, you know, you got to take accountability for that. You got to be, you know, you got to understand that, hey, you know, there's consequence to your actions. You know, we're not going to come to your rescue if you are at fault. You know, I mean, we'll come, but you know, it's going to be a lot worse, especially if it's your fault. You know, and like, you know, basically we've been working with them, but it's just one of those things that's really hard as a parent to, you know, have your kid, you know, have them such that young understand. Cause young men, we start growing up, so it's like, it's
How
really
old is
tough right now. So,
you said how old is he?
he is 12.
He's 12. Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
That's some good
Yeah,
stuff, man.
yeah, it
That's
is.
some
How about you, Norris?
I think one of the main things that I try to do in terms of accountability when it comes to my children is just make sure that they understand that at the end of the day, whether it's good, whether it's bad, there's consequences for everything. Um, but if it's a situation where you've done something that's unfavorable, you have to be able to own that. You have to
Mm.
be able to own it. Um, I think a lot of the times, just throughout life, I can just speak for myself. There was a lot of times that I didn't really necessarily want to own certain things that I may have done, basically because I knew that it would put me in a position of being looked at in a bad light. I mean,
Mm.
I'm just keeping it a buck. But over time, I gotten to a point to where, with doing a lot of soul searching and just a lot of personal development, that I had to come to a point to where I had to own my stuff, and in owning that, or in owning those things, it helped out for the better, because when you can own things, even though it may necessarily be hard for you, to apologize or try to make things right, when you can own it, if you have a heart to own your stuff, um, then it shouldn't be, or it won't be as hard. If you did something to somebody, to go and tell them, hey, I'm sorry for what I did. or whatever. And being able to just consistently do that as you go through our life. And so for my kids, that's just something that I really, I strive to push with them, be able to own your stuff. But even in that, um, allow yourself to use common sense, because I mean there'll be times that you'll use common sense and you'll still make a wrong decision because it's something that you just wanted to do.
Oh
If we
wow.
just if we're just being honest,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that I had in my mind um, that I seesawed on. You know, yeah, I really don't need to do this, but if I do this, you know, you sometimes you weigh out what could potentially be if you handle things in a certain way. And I think all of us have done that at some point in our lives. We knew that if we did a thing that it was going to be damaging, but because we wanted to do that thing, we did it anyway.
Yeah,
And
we won't. We won't.
then when it came back to bite us later on, because it always does, we had to go through that period of reaping,
Yeah.
what we sowed. And so for me, that's one of the main things that I try to teach mine, be mindful of the decisions that you make.
And how
And
many do you have, Norris?
well, with my wife, we have three, and then I have two daughters, so
Okay.
five altogether.
Okay.
And just making sure, man, that when all is said and done, that you know you try to instill in them to be better, than to do things on a different plane.
Absolutely.
That than what you have done, and use your personal experiences and transparency to try to steer them in the right direction. And so, you know,
Absolutely.
I think we
That's every
figure
father's
that
goal.
out. Yeah, we figure that out, or we see that later on in their lives as they grow and become adults. What we can see if what we were trying to instill in them plays out.
Yeah. And sometimes we don't always get to see that.
We don't
So
always get
that's
to,
rough.
but that's
I
that's
know.
the that's the hope.
Yeah. Well, I know for me, for as a father, I do take some lessons from things. I think a majority of us do take lessons from our childhood, either whether that's implementing the things that was done to us or for us, or actually going in the exact opposite and staying away from those type of things. I remember a situation that kind of happened, um, and we talking about accountability. We're talking about something, and I witnessed my mom and stepdad at the time. They did something. They handled us wrong, and they wouldn't take accountability for it. And for me, that was one of the most damaging things for me. I mean, I used to get my butt whooped, and most times I deserved all that.
Right.
But for me, that was more damaging to me, is knowing that they were wrong, they knowing that they were wrong, and them not taking accountability on that. That was one of
Mhm.
the things that really stuck with me. Even as a grown ass man, I remember that even to this day. And so, as a father, being accountable and teaching accountability to my kids is also learning to say, I was wrong, son.
Yeah.
I did that because I thought this was the best way to do things, but now I'm finding out that wasn't the way to handle you, or that wasn't the way that I should have taught you that. And then learning to be humble enough to say, you know what, full transparency with the kids, and allowing them to see you vulnerable and know that daddy can mess up. Daddy did that wrong. I have no problems doing that now because I understand, from that situation I just told you guys about, that they did that to me. And I remember how that felt. I
Mhm.
remember how that felt. So teaching them, when they're wrong, they're wrong.
Right.
You can have them. I think you said this, Norris. You can have the best intentions and still screw that thing up,
Still.
especially as parenting, because a lot of us, if we had our kids young, then these kids are growing up with us,
Right.
and they're seeing us, make mistakes. And the best thing that we can do to them is allow them to also understand why we chose to do that, even when it turned out the way it did. Because if we're just going to give them the end results and you just do what I told you to do and don't ask any questions, because I think that was passed along to a lot of us. Do as I tell you to do. Don't ask no questions. But the problem with that is you're raising kids that now they don't know how to critically think about nothing, and they don't know why they're doing it. They're just going to go do it. And then when they get in that position again where they have to make that choice, they may not do that because they don't understand why. And so kind of going back to the point, fatherhood for me is just also being accountable to myself, but also teaching them that accountability when you're right. Okay. You don't always have to try to flex on it, but when you're wrong, you should be humble enough to say, you know what, I was at fault, and then try to make it right, make amends. Don't try to cover it up because that just makes it worse. I think we've all been guilty of that, knowing that we were wrong and then still trying to cover it up. And so I think, especially for us as men, sometimes we get trapped in these titles and positions where we feel like we can't look wrong in front of people. We have to make sure that we hold ourselves to this highest of esteems. And that means that sometimes we say and do things that ain't right, and we refuse to kind of stand on the truth instead of just and look vulnerable to people. Instead, we just try to cover it up. So
I think just kind of piggybacking off what you said, like one of the things as a father, I take accountability for is just like some of the traumas that I carry as a child. I don't bring them with me. Like a lot of people be like, well, my mama whipped me, so I'm gonna whip my kids. Not me. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't like whooping my kids. Because I think children make mistakes. And like I used to get whoopings for like simple stuff like spilling milk or like if I was a couple of minutes late coming in the house, or or if I wanted to play outside and I was locked outside and I had on my good shoes, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, am I supposed to take my shoes off, and just play barefooted? What's going on, So me, I don't like before I even punish my kids, let alone whoop them, I think about like, what did they do? Why did they do it? Was there anything I could have did to change it? You know what I'm saying? Like,
what do you mean about that? Is there anything that you could have did to change it?
Like, for instance, if your kid is saying, "Daddy, Daddy, can I have something to drink?" and you keep saying, "Hold on," and they're thirsty, because let's be real, you get thirsty. You thirsty, I mean, you thirsty. You go you want something to drink. You ain't about to sit there and no, you want to get something to drink. So you're like, okay, hold on. But at the same time, you lead them to say with something like, "Whatever's in this refrigerator is yours. This is your house." You know what I'm saying? So if your kids know this, but at the same time, you're telling them to wait, and you're not putting yourself to go get it. I mean, of course, I'm gonna be like, why didn't you wait on me? And it was like, Daddy, I was really thirsty, blah, blah, blah. And something is spilled. Okay, well, let's clean that up. Next time I say, wait. And that's what it is. Now, back in the day, I spilled something, that belt coming out. That's you know what I'm saying? That was a wrap, because milk. I mean, milk was expensive. Well, it wasn't expensive back then.
I don't think it's really expensive as it is now. But you touched on this. You touched on a good thing. I want to stay there. You talked about whoopings, and I think that's something that's heavy in our communities. And I'm gonna shoot this over to you, Norris, but I'm gonna set this up for you, because a lot of us came from church. Mm-hmm. And in church, we talk about, we use scripture. A lot of the grandparents use scripture to justify whoopings. And I think there's a difference. Obviously, we're going to set that up to where there's a difference between spankings and there's a difference between beatings, whoopings, extension cords, pots, pans, sometimes whatever mama could get a hold of. Some of us had some grandparents that didn't play that junk. Mm-hmm. And so, but a lot of that has left not just physical scarring on us, men are handled differently. Young men are handled differently, but a lot of that is set up some of the framework that we carry with us into our adulthood and how we handle our children. So, biblical teaching talks about spanking the children in order to keep them in line. And I know in ministry, I know you're going to touch on that, but as a mental health professional, that's one of the things I actually have conversations with parents too. Just because it was done to us and we survived it or we turned out well doesn't always justify us bringing that into our home and using it to the same extent that it was used on us towards our children.
Right.
Because let's talk about the law part of that in Kansas is you can't leave marks on your kids. And one of the conversations I have with parents is what is the purpose of the spanking? Isn't it to redirect behavior?
Right.
It's supposed to redirect the behavior of the child. So are we doing it because are we beating the child because we're dysregulated as adults, or are we whooping the child because of what they did definitely earned them a spanking or harsh consequences? So I know I've been all over the place with that, Norris, but I want to pitch it over
No,
to
you
you
know,
because I know we all got our butts whooped. I know I definitely earned a lot of those and got away with some, but um, that is something that's heavy in our community is accountability, and we're going to have to be accountable to that. But I wanted to pitch it over to you and let you kind of talk about that.
well, I think honestly, it depends on the person. I think that you do have some people that will actually go as far as being going overboard in terms of them calling themselves disciplining their child. And I think a lot of it is probably based off of the way that they were raised.
Yeah.
They this is what was done, to me. And so, in turn, I'm going to perpetuate the cycle. Um, and I'm going to do the same because it helped me when in actuality, it really didn't help you. It hurt you. You just didn't see the invisible scars that you were carrying. You saw the physical, but you didn't see the visible scars. And what I mean by that is the mental scarring that took place when all of these things were going on. Now, with my grandmother, I'm gonna be honest, she never was the type of person that beat me for nothing. If I got it, why? And I didn't even get beat. Let me rephrase that. I got whoopings, and it wasn't never an extension cord or a hanger or
Lucky you.
Yeah, you
nothing
got to
like
rephrase that. You don't want grandma calling you.
right. It was not. It's not. It was nothing like what I've seen. I've seen people get whooped with extension cords and things like that. Now, I will say now my grandfather, he he got me with the closest thing that he could get, and that was his oxygen hose. you know,
That's a good
um,
one.
but to be honest with you, he got that because I was mumbling under my breath, doing what kids do, and he caught me on that one. You know what I'm saying? And I just had to go on ahead and take that. I mean, he was bedridden, but he could move around enough,
Right.
that if he needed to get you, he could get you. And so, like I said, for me, it wasn't a situation where, I didn't get it for nothing. It was definitely well earned, and I didn't get many. Let's just be clear. I didn't get many, and I think that's because she was very even-handed in her approach when it came to that. Now, mind you, because you brought it up, my grandfather pastored for years. My grandmother, was right behind him doing prison ministry and other things. So in church, we do have things like that, spare the rod, spoil the child. The scripture that you talked about, where it
Yeah.
talks about, when whooping your child, and by doing that, you save them, in a sense. And I believe that there is a time and there's a purpose for those things, but I don't believe that you one of the things that I didn't do, I didn't get you while I was still mad.
That's huge.
And the reason that I didn't get you while I was still upset is because I know me well enough that if I did it while I was still mad or still upset or whatever the case may have been, if you would have tried to, take it there or whatever, it could have potentially turned. Good parenting to me in that respect, if you're going to implement spanking, whooping your child or whatever, I would urge any parent, don't do it while you're mad. Go somewhere and sit down, cool
Yeah.
off. Even if it take you a whole day or so to do that. You know what I'm saying? Because let's be honest. If we're being honest, man, sometimes, man, our kids, especially once they get to, a certain period in their life, as far as age and things like that, man, they can really take you there.
Absolutely.
And all you can think of in the time that they're trying to take you there is everything that you sacrificed, how hard you have worked,
Right.
and every other thing that you can think of providing everything. And you got the nerve to try to disrespect me, or you think because you are at this age or whatever that you feel as though you can just talk to me any kind of way. Man, I will knock your whole head off your shoulders.
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
being honest.
Yeah.
And in the mind of a parent, that's what you think, because there's no way that you're gonna disrespect me like that. Not after everything that I've done and am doing,
Mm-hmm.
because you still in my house. That's the thought patterns,
Yeah.
that we have. And so you have to be mindful that when it comes to a situation like that, I learned over time, no, I'm not gonna get you while I'm mad. Let me go over here. I'm gonna sit down. We'll revisit it. Trust, because you're gonna get it. You're going to get it.
Yeah.
But I'm just not going to do it now, because I need to make sure. And I also utilize that method for this reason. Like Marlon was saying earlier, it gives you an opportunity to really think on the situation in its totality. Because if I can sit and I can think on the situation and find out in some way, shape, or form that what I said may have led you to believe something different, or whatever the case may have been, okay, no, I'm not going to get you, but we need to sit down and we need to wrap, because I need you to understand this is what I meant by this. Now, if this situation comes back around again and I'm talking to you, me as a parent, I'm going to make sure that I'm very clear on what it is that I'm telling you. Now, if you decide that you want to, incur an infraction after I've been very, very clear, then we'll deal with that in the way that we need to deal with. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, we have to look at it. I think, as far as parenting and fatherhood, we have to look at it in the sense of, even if you are a person that came from the
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 spanking.
environment of being beaten, you don't have to follow that same pattern.
And where do we, as men, because there's, some of us have been single fathers, and there's some that are in two-parent homes. That I believe that there's actually accountability in both homes, because I think for some of us single fathers, the kids are going back and forth between the homes, and the kids are really good at manipulating
Absolutely.
and manipulating or getting their needs met. And so they bring a lot of that over to our home and then take that back over to different. So the kids know how to play the parents. But as in terms of accountability, I mean, because we've all been single fathers, how do we navigate that space to deal with our kids? And I know we deal with our young men, our sons, a different way. But how do we navigate the accountability part of that?
This is where maturity comes in.
Mm.
You have to be able at some point, and I know I'll probably get a lot of flack for what I'm getting ready to say, but at some point in life, you have to be able to be open enough to have communication with the person that you had this child with.
Yeah, that's huge.
You got to be, and I'm not saying that it's going to always work that way. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Because, some have baby mamas that just, you're not going to do right because for what, you feel like the dude did you wrong, or the dude he's not with you. So you mad, so you're going to make his life a living hell because he's not with you and he's moved on, even though you got somebody yourself, or vice versa. You got that man that don't want to do right, because his woman or ex-woman, whatever the case, she has moved on and she's taken on somebody, and you miserable and looking crazy and feeling crazy, and as a man you really want to flex, so you don't want to act right and have them into a conversation that need to be had. But I think whether you're married or whether you're separated, or you don't live in the same house, at the end of the day, one of the key things, and me and my wife, we talked about this in the very beginning stages, hey, if one of them come and they ask you something and you tell them no, and then for whatever reason, if they come and they ask me, can I blah 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 blah, my first question is going to be, did you ask your mama? What did she say? Same thing. Did you ask, your pops? What did he say? Because us keeping that type of a communication, together, it helps to, subvert a lot of that extra, playing the parents, back and forth. And like I said, that comes with maturity, whether you're married or whether you're unmarried, but especially for the ones that are unmarried, where you have a baby mama or a baby daddy. At some point, man, y'all got to be able to communicate. It won't always happen, just being realistic. But if it can happen, do everything that you can to make sure that thing happens, and be open enough, to be able to have those tough conversations when it comes to that child, man. Because like you said, Terry, children play. They play right in your face. They will play in your face and they won't think twice about it, as long as they are able to get what it is that they need to, to get from whoever, however they're able to do whatever they need to do. They'll play in both your face if you let them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Totally.
But like I said, at the end of the day, it's maturity. You got to be able to have those conversations, and if it means, wading through murky water to be able to get to that point, then there you go. You know
Yeah, I
what I'm saying?
think for a lot of men, especially the ones that we kind of deal with, that's a big part of that too. Accountability is having the maturity to understand that I'm not always right. And I remember at one point in time, I'm not gonna put that out there, but I'm just gonna say this. Sometimes you do end up being defensive by things that when you think about later, and you're like, you know what, I shouldn't have handled that like that. But that takes a level of maturity that you talked about. I wanted to flip over and add a couple questions I have, because I know we're in a good place right now. We might have to do a part 2 on this, but one of the things that I definitely wanted to throw out there is, what type of skills relate to accountability? What type of skills
I think the
relate
ability to listen, the communication is a part of that.
Yeah.
The ability to look into oneself. You can't it's like, because it starts, like Michael Jackson said it best, it starts with the man in the mirror. You can sit there and preach about how they're wrong, he's wrong, she's wrong, they're wrong, but you got, like I said, even like going back to earlier, we were talking about with the kids and what Norris was saying about the anger, you have in your heart. You got to like kind of really understand that, damn, it might be you. Yeah, it might be you. It just honestly might be you. That's not to say you should always blame yourself, but there's some things out there that let's be real. Your kids might not talk to you because you might be aggressive. You might be too aggressive with them. You might yell at them all the time. You might be a little too hard on them. Your wife may not talk to you because every time she tries to talk to you, you have a fit, and you're thinking that she doesn't talk to you, but there's a reason why. Like you got to kind of understand that type of thinking before you could really, if you can't really look at yourself in the mirror, then you're just kind of, you're going to be running in circles, and that's a never ending battle,
That's right. Good. That's good. Communication. Thank you for that. That was a good one. How
Absolutely.
about you?
I was just saying, I was going to say communication, definitely. And being able to hear, to listen, and not hear to respond. One of the greatest pieces of advice that I've ever been given, man. And I say it over and over again, because this piece, the advice was in relation to marriage, but it is something that you can use in any type of setting, man. Uh, good friend of mine, man, older gentleman, he told me, he said, man, hey, everything doesn't warrant a response. It just don't. Everything doesn't warrant a response.
Yeah.
Learn to pick and choose your battles wisely,
Amen.
is what he said. And like I said, and he was talking in terms of marriage. But the more that I think and I look at and I, just go through life, it's applicable in so many, areas of your life, man. So I mean,
Absolutely.
it's
So
applicable.
many.
And
Yeah.
so, like I said, man, being able to, to listen to, you know, I mean, to hearing to listen and not just to respond.
Yeah, just to
And
respond.
and I'm looking at the comments. Let me bring in Kareem Shakur. He says this. He says, being able to have the ability to listen with understanding is a big part, and having to understand that everyone has a different understanding. That's
Yeah.
major,
It takes
because
a level of maturity.
everybody's not gonna think how you think.
Absolutely.
Everybody's not
100%.
gonna, they're not gonna come to the realization of things the way that you come to the realization of things. And so
Mhm.
you have to be able to sometime, man, agree to disagree. And that
Yeah.
works well, honestly, in my marriage. It works well, man. Me and my wife, we don't always agree, but we do discuss
Hmm.
I know.
communication.
I
I
know.
love that. I
I know
love
with
that.
me, like my kid's mom, or my son's mom. Not to put our business out there like that, but we have a communication issue. Mainly, it's because I'm supposed to tell her everything that's going on with my son, but she doesn't have to tell me. She feel like she doesn't have to tell me nothing. Like I'm supposed to have psychic powers and call every single day just to find out what's going on. It's weird. It's a weird type of situation, but I know with me, like I take accountability in knowing I could most definitely be a better father than I am, and but I work a lot. I do. I'm literally
Oh shoot, sorry, y'all.
like with me, I have to like make time for everything that I want to do. Like I have a PlayStation and an Xbox in there with tons of games, and I don't have any type of campaign on them because I'm always working. I'm literally like I might get one game of Pac-Man in just to shoot the breeze.
Said to
But
Pac-Man.
I
Right.
think with me, I work so hard, but at the same time, I am like I know it's not good for me to work that hard and be that way, far away from my kid, be that disconnected from my children. So like with me, where I'm starting is I'm actually going to further my education so I can find a better job so I don't have to worry about, what I'm saying, having to go and work 12, 14 hours out of the day just to make ends meet. I can just, do
Yeah.
my 8 hours and be able to chill, do
Mhm.
things like that, what I'm saying, or, something like that. So I know, with it's like you said earlier, it was like communication is like really, that's like 50% of it. You know what I'm saying?
I
Like
think
50%.
Shoot, man, it's more than 50.
Yeah, I think you touched on
Trust me.
something, though. I want to throw out because I'm gonna let you continue. But one of the ones that I heard and I do agree with that I was going to throw out there is time management.
Yeah,
Time management in terms
absolutely.
of accountability. How are we managing our time? And you kind of stated something that I think we all of us struggle with. If you have time, you don't have money, and if you have the money, you just don't have the time.
All the time.
So you're trying to juggle that from the terms of accountability. We try to juggle that as parents and put ourselves in positions where we're giving our kids the best version of ourselves with the time that we have, knowing that
Right.
we're trying to elevate ourselves. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Go ahead, Marlon. Go and finish your thoughts. I'm sorry.
And what just kind of piggybacking off of what you just said about time management. Have you guys seen the movie The Butler?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, there's a part in that movie that really touched me. Like, because dude was working hard. My man was working hard for years, and he like basically he kept the Uncle Tom face to keep food on the table, which I don't have a problem with that. But there was that part where he actually towards the end where he actually went and stood with his son after he retired. His son
Mhm.
was at like a protest, and he
Yeah.
actually was with his son, and he went to jail. you know, because now it's like I ain't got no job no more. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
I'm retired. Come on, you know, I'm with you now. Let's go. You know, I mean, you know, I ain't got nothing to lose now. You know, and I don't want to be like that. I know with me, I don't want to be like that. I definitely like me. I really want to get my sons into sports, but not only that, I want to be able to go, and I want to be one of the parents on the sidelines thinking I'm the coach. So I definitely want to be. I want to be in that realm. And like I said, but at the same time, they need things. Especially like I have a daughter. She's about to be a junior. Prom time's coming up. Like, you know, senior. You know, she wants to go to. She wants to go to Langston.
Don't even get me started.
Some money.
Right. She wants to go to Langston. Langston, you know, that's HBCU. You know what I'm saying? You know, and all right, even if she gets scholarships, grants, and pray for me. I hope she gets scholarships.
When she gets scholarships.
Yeah, when she gets
scholarships.
Yes. Put a prayer in the air for that. I'm still gonna have to. I really don't want her working while she's in college, unless it's like an internship or something that goes towards her career. So I know with me, like I have to be on it. Me and her mother have to be on it. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's like, dang, you know, I want to be able to relax. You know, I want to go on vacations and stuff like that. You know, I mean, that's why. I mean, it's one of those things. Time management is like, I think with all of us nowadays, it's like it's one of the things we work hard. You know, I mean, I'm not saying the people back in the day didn't work hard, but we work hard. You know, I mean,
go ahead, brother.
Let me add my thought. I'll pitch it over to you because I'm gonna add another one too. The time management is huge because we want to give the best versions of ourselves to our family at all times. Right. I believe that for you men too, because I know you guys. You want to give the best version of yourselves. And for me, you know, building a business, sometimes I just don't have that. But what I've had to do is I sit my kids down and we have a conversation. Even my older one. And let them know, like, Daddy's not here because he just wants to hang out and just not be here. Daddy's not here because I'm trying to build something for us that's going to put you in a better position in life.
Right.
I want you to win. And so when you don't see me here, know that I'm doing something for us so that we can elevate and do some different things. And that conversation looks different depending on which one of my kids at which age we're talking about. But time management is just such a huge thing because if you're not accountable first to yourself, then you're going to waste time doing things that you probably shouldn't be doing. And then if you're not managing your time well, you'll find yourself in places you shouldn't be with people who are wasting your time and you're wasting theirs.
Right.
So for me, it looks a little bit different. Like you just said, you're spending a lot of time working to pay bills and different things like that. So that's huge. I'm going to throw this new one out there and then we're going to kind of move to the next topic because I want to hear your thoughts on this. Follow through. Follow through is a huge part for me, accountability, because we all have had men in our life. We deal with men, we deal with people in our lives that don't follow through on things that they say they will. And a lot of us and a lot of men in our group have been affected by people who were supposed to do certain things and follow through and didn't. And it created some trauma, whether that be leaders, you know, them experiencing things in the church hurt, or them having relationships where the person didn't respect the vulnerability that they tried to give. And we ignored the red flags about it. So just the follow through part of that. So follow through can be traumatic for a lot of us because sometimes we give more than what we probably should have been given. And we ignore the flags that we probably should have eased back on some stuff when we give too much. But follow through is a huge part of accountable. If you don't follow through with your job, what happened?
Right.
You ain't gonna have that job very often, very long. I teach my sons that. Follow through, be a man of your word.
Right.
There's things where I said I was gonna do things or I was gonna pay a certain amount, and something happened that I had not even thought about. And even though I might have had a valid reason why I didn't pay that at a certain time, I made sure, even if I had to pull out my savings or do whatever, I'm gonna make sure that I follow through on my word, because that's huge for me, the accountability part, and it shows my sons and daughters what accountability looks like.
Right.
Norris.
I was just going to say, and we're still kind of going along in the lines of what we were just talking about right before we went into this. You know, I was thinking about what Marlon was saying, and you know, him talking about, you know, his time, because he works a lot, you're in a season now where you starting, to get your practice going and different things like that. Me, I've kind of been where both of you are. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying, in terms of, you know having a significant other, working full time, and running a business.
Yeah.
And
Multiple hats.
so I can tell you from experience that, when me and my wife got together, it was huge because there was a lot of time, that I was gone. You know what I'm saying? Because there would be times I would be cleaning accounts, some of my own accounts, where people, may have missed or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gone. So what I would say is, in terms of follow through and in terms of communication, and I'm using myself for an example. One of the main reasons that I wasn't really able, or we had such a struggle in communication, it wasn't because she wasn't a good communicator. Let's just be honest. She was a great communicator. When I ran into an issue, or we ran into issues where she, I don't want to say called me to the carpet on it, but she expressed how she felt about whatever said issue was. The first thing that I ended up doing was going into a shell, because I don't like confrontation. I don't like it. I went into a shell, but then if you kept talking about it, by the time I did come out of that shell, I'm coming at you full force. And so the frustration, the anger, it's almost like this is my defense mechanism. I'm gonna come at you harder than what you coming at me, because I want you to leave me alone. I really don't want to talk about this. I'm wrong, but I don't want to talk about it.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? And so one of the things that I had to do is I had to really sit again, look at myself, think about the trauma that I was perpetuating, and what was it that made me that way.
Mm.
Where if you were coming to me and you were talking to me about a situation that you felt may have hurt you or whatever the case, why was it always that I felt like you was trying to come at me? And why did I respond in a trauma response,
Yeah.
you know, that caused it to be way more big than what it should have been.
Mm.
So what I had to do was I had to again dig deep. Why am I responding with this trauma response? Once I found out what the root of that was, okay, let me start listening. Now, if you tell me that I can respond and I can talk to you, then when I start doing this, don't cut me off. Just let me say what I need to say. Because now I'm trying to practice a new habit of being able to communicate in a way that I have never communicated before with anybody else. I'm trying to grow. And so, I would say, like, and Marlon's is, he was talking about, him and his lady, he's gone a lot and different things like that. And I'm pretty sure he hears it. Man, you always gone, blah, blah, blah. What, I want to do, and can we go, and da 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 da. Sometime, man, bro, I was dog tired. I
Okay,
didn't want to go. I didn't want to go to no movie.
not to interrupt you, but my lady doesn't do that.
Oh, well, that's good.
My son's mom is the one that's always combative. My lady,
Oh, okay.
my lady, she works as hard as I do. Like,
Okay.
sometimes I gotta be like, look, we chilling tonight. You know
Right.
what I'm saying?
Thank you for cleaning that up, Marlon, because you got
Because I'm glad that
Because
he
if she
cleared it up,
watching it,
because,
she'll be like, why you got
I
them thinking
mean,
that I'm like that?
I'm glad that you cleared that up, because from what I was getting, I thought, so that's cool.
Right.
That's a different ball game in that respect. You know
Marlon
what I'm
said,
saying?
don't mess my home up.
Yeah, don't mess my home up. That's a different game, in that respect. But
That's awesome.
I mean, overall, just just as an example, you know what I'm saying? Again, just coming back to me, you know what I'm saying? Being able to say within self, look, bro, if you want this thing to work, man, you're gonna have to do better. If you want this thing to work, man, you're gonna have to follow through. You can't just listen to respond. You gotta listen.
Listen to listen.
Hear it out, And it may even, I've gotten better. It may have taken me, man, an hour to really just come up with how I wanted to say what I wanted to say, so I wouldn't come off as combative or offensive, you know what I'm saying, or whatever. But again, that's hard work. But the follow through piece that you were talking about, Terry, is I had to make up in my mind, if I want this thing to work, man, I'm gonna have to really work on self. She's a big communicator. Norris, you're gonna have to communicate, man. And you're going to have to understand that just because somebody is communicating their feelings to you, that doesn't mean that they're trying to attack you. What they're trying to do is they're trying to get you to understand where they're coming from. Somebody said it in the comments, Eric, he said it in the comments that he was reading this book, Everyday Ubuntu. And the lower part of his comment says, I am because you are. So in the book, they tell us to put ourselves in the other person's shoes and try to understand where they're coming from. That was major for me in terms of follow through, because what I had to do is it took me out of the combative state and utilizing the trauma response. And I had to think, where is that coming from? Why is she thinking? What made her come to this conclusion? Why is she thinking like this? And if we're being honest, two people that come together, you both gonna come with baggage. Everything is not gonna be, you 1,000% healed, and that person is 1,000% healed. Life ain't set up that way. Y'all gonna come with some type of baggage, and you're gonna have to work through that baggage together if you want it to work. You know what I'm saying? And so in terms of that, even, with your children, you know what I'm saying? The follow through piece, I may not always have it all the time, man. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, and not to cut you off.
No, you good.
we got about 5 minutes.
We only got 5 minutes.
I wanna pitch it out to you guys. And this will be my ending question, and we're gonna talk a little bit about what we have, some exciting things going on with the Black Man's Locker.
Marlon, you answer this one.
So you don't even know what because
I don't want to get on no tangents.
Okay. Well, it's all good. We're gonna hold each other accountable. So it's all good.
We're gonna do that.
So to all my speakers, all my followers that are listening to us today, the question is this to them: what steps can they take to be more accountable?
I would say, am I supposed to answer that?
Yeah. So what steps can they take to be more accountable?
Definitely, we keep saying it, but definitely communication, understanding, your role in whatever's going on, whether it's your fault or not. Because you don't want to be sitting there, just basically shifting the blame, especially if it could be your fault, whatever it may be. Like if you get an eviction notice, you got an eviction notice because you didn't pay your rent. Not because and if it's not because of that, and your landlord's just doing something that's probably illegal. So other than that, you got to kind of take it to yourself, like, dang, I messed up.
Okay, so communication, self-reflection. What else did you say?
And basically just accepting what if your role in it, accepting your role in whatever it was. I
like that. Norris,
let me
ask the question: what steps can our speakers, our listeners, do to be more accountable?
Be okay with not being right all the time.
That's good.
Be okay with not being right all the time, man, because you don't know everything. And as a human, man, you're gonna mess some things up. We just gonna be honest about it. I think somebody actually said the same thing that I said. Kareem did. He did say that. So understanding, that you're not gonna be right all the time, and be a person of your word. Be a person of your word, man. Let your word be your bond. And even if there's a situation that comes up where you're not able to keep your word, be man or woman enough to communicate that hey, you know, something came up. I'm not able to do what I thought that I was going to be able to do. You know what I'm saying? Don't just leave a person hanging or thinking that you didn't, you know, you didn't come through just because you didn't want to. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing wrong, man, with talking. And I mean, if we're just being honest, things happen, man, in life. Things happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. And they're
So
going to continue to happen. They're
yeah,
going to continue to happen. So
it's
we
just
got
what it
some
is.
we got some great points, and I hope our listeners had a chance to kind of pick up a couple of things. We didn't get through our entire list, but we touched on a lot of the topics that we had, and we're going to continue because I think we need a part two of this. We
Yeah.
may not do it immediately, but I think there's a part two, and we're going to be accountable to you guys to make sure that we do that.
Right.
The topics with fatherhood, health is one that we didn't get a chance to talk about, but we're definitely going to put that because, you know, in our communities, especially Black men, depression and a lot of manifestations in our health are symptoms of our internal mental health issues that we're not addressing, as well as the traumas in our lives. So we have to be accountable to our families regarding that. So we didn't get to touch on health, but we're going to do that next time. Relationships, we actually kind of did touch on relationships in different in our stories and experiences and things, but we're going to run that back to our mental health and our finance, how to be accountable in those areas. We're going to touch on those maybe in a part two, but I definitely wanted to just kind of give a shout out. We didn't get a chance to get Ty on here. I know he has a lot of great things that he want to say as well, some stories he want to share. I thought this was a great show. I think we have to run this back, but I'm excited about what we're doing and where we're going. A lot of our listeners don't even know behind the scenes we're working to try to put resources and things in place for you guys to really benefit and maximize your time with the Black Man's Locker.
Right.
Any shout outs, anything you guys want to add before we click off of here?
Shout out to Brandon Fletcher, Kareem Shakur, Eric Aru, JB Baker, Denny Antoinette, all of those that made some comments. Shout out to y'all, man, for coming on and being on there with us. Also, a big shout out to Coach Don Staley for whooping Iowa and them today. I'm gonna say it.
Wow.
Shout out to Don Staley for whooping Iowa today and becoming the champions, NCAA 2024 collegiate women's champions. That's right. Shout out to her. She'll never see it, but it's okay. Shout out to her. They played a great game, man. And I just love her as a coach and as a person, man.
Yeah, she's she's very classy.
She's dope.
But she holds some players accountable too, which is
absolutely
theme, and the players are better for it.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts, Marlon?
I just want to give a shout out to every brother that showed up to our conference. I'm sorry we just now getting back up to it, but at the same time, we all got busy, time. But that really kind of touched me that everybody, all those people showed up. And I want to give a kudos to y'all for holding it down. You know what I'm saying? Like my schedule was messed up that whole weekend, but definitely we as a unit, we, like you said, we got some things coming up. I'm not ready to announce them, nothing yet, but I know we're working, and the consistency is going to be crazy. I just hope you guys are ready for what Black Man's Locker has to offer. So,
man, we got a lot of great things coming up. Like you said, we're not gonna show our hand yet, but we're working. We're working, people, and we're getting better. We appreciate your engagement. For all those that Norris mentioned, we appreciate that because it only allows us to get better, and it only allows us to kind of understand. And we may not get everything. It's a lot of us on here. We're trying to share our personal stories and be transparent and vulnerable in this space. And so in the process, we're learning as well. So be patient with us, but hold us accountable. So if all minds is clear, that's Black Man's Locker. I gotta mess with my guy.
This is gonna be the running joke. I swear this is the running joke, but it's all right. It is what it is.
Hey, it's real though. It's real though. Just Black Man's Locker signing out. We love you guys.
Peace
out.